Welcome back to another FPL video. I'm really excited for this one as I'm going to rate community drafts. First of all, I have by no means any conclusion or the ultimate FPL drafts, but I played the game for several years and I picked up a couple of decent ranks along the way, including 2 top 1000 ranks, 3 times top 10k and 7 times inside the top 35k, so hopefully this can be helpful. But for now, let's get into the video. Once again, thanks for all the contributions. I received 15 drafts over at X and I've compared the ownership in those drafts to the official numbers on the FPL sites. So as you can see, Isaac is the most popular asset. He is actually selected by 100%, 15 out of 15 in the contributions that I received. On the official site, he is also the most owned player, but his ownership is 55%. I actually do like the pricing this year. Earlier we had players at 100% ownership going into game week 1, but we don't have that this season. So we had Haaland last season at 90% plus, and we had Jesus who had 80% plus. So right now 55 is the highest ownership percentage, and I like that more than some players reaching almost 100% before a ball is even kicked. Next on the list is Salah. He is selected by 13 out of 15, so 86%, quite high when we compare to the official site where he's only owned by 35%. SA, same goes for him. He is selected by 73% in the drafts that I received, but on the official site he is only selected by 33%. Haaland, I mentioned him, he was 90% last season. This year he's selected by 42%, but it's still a week until the deadline. Last week he was actually 30 something, so let's wait and see what his ownership goes to before game week 1 starts. Some other interesting fantasy options as well. We have Gordon and Kunku, Saka and Fernandes. Their ownership in the drafts that I received reflects their ownership in the official game. Another interesting one, Cole Palmer, he is selected by 3 out of 15 in the drafts that I received, but on the official game he is actually one of the most owned players, sitting at 47% ownership. In my opinion, this reflects the difference between the more casual players and the more engaged players. Say that you're somewhat of an engaged player when you're a part of the FPL community over at X, or if you are consuming YouTube FPL content. So engaged players don't see the value in Palmer right now, but the more casual player who has maybe selected their team 2 weeks ago and haven't touched it since, they have strong belief in Cole Palmer, maybe due to his good contributions from the bench in Euros for England, who knows. But for now, let's take a look at the actual drafts that I received. First out, one of the nicest guys in the FPL community, FPL Neil. He has gone for a 4.5 goalkeeper rotation with Flecken and Verbruggen. I'm not sure this is the best strategy, but at least they are 2 of the goalkeepers with the best rotating fixtures. So this can work, and it can also end in tears, but hopefully for you, Neil, this will work out. In defense, Guardiola, a really strong season ending last year, contributing with both assists and goals, and he will probably get a couple of clean sheets as well. He's priced at 6.0, so he's one of the most expensive defenders with favorable fixtures. Fast, I'm not sure that I will have Fast in my starting 11. He is playing against Tottenham. I can see them scoring against the newly promoted Leicester. Maybe Mikulenko would have been better. Konsa, he is one of the most selected defenders, and it's a reason for that. He is nailed on, and he is playing for a team that did really well last season. In midfield, SA, as mentioned, he is one of the most selected players in the drafts that I received. Same goes for Salah, Gordon as well. They can be labeled as good, solid and safe picks. Next out for Neil's midfield is Gibbs White, kind of a differential. I talked about him in the review I did of all the Premier League teams. If I was to have an asset from Nottingham Forest, it would have been Gibbs White. He is their talisman and he is on all set pieces, so I actually like Gibbs White as a pick. Next out is Amad Diallo. He is a really big differential. He's only priced at 5.0, so he is also labeled as an enabler. So is he really a good FPL option? He's done well in preseason, but I'd like to see some more when the season starts from Amad, but I do believe that it's a really good punt. Up top, the inclusion of Amad Diallo enables Neil to have both Salah and Haaland in his team. So up top, we will see this a lot before the season starts, and it's Erling Haaland and Isaac. So overall, this is a really good draft. Can't really fault it. If I had to say something, it would be the rotating goalkeepers. Most of the times this end in tears, and I can see some bench points when I have both Amad and Armstrong as well. So maybe downgrading one of Amad or Armstrong and upgrading the other one could be an idea, because you already have enough bench cover from both Anderson and Mykolenko. So maybe one downgrade and one upgrade can make this team even better. So the last thing I'll mention about this draft is the obvious lack of Arsenal assets. They did really well last year and came second. So I do believe that we should include one of their assets in our teams. So if you want an Arsenal asset in your team, you can downgrade Armstrong on your bench and maybe upgrade one of your goalkeepers to Raya. This will at least give you defensive coverage from one of the best defensive teams in the league. Draft number 2 is Kanji FPL. No Haaland in this team allows him to have a really strong defense. Porro 5.5, Trent at 7.0, and also Saliba at 6.0. So this is a really strong defense, and hopefully it pays out for Kanji FPL. In midfield, some familiar picks, Eze, Salah, Saka is in there as well. Kunku is really good value at 6.5, and the same goes for Bruno Fernandes, 8.5, and will play on the first day on Friday against Fulham, and he is on penalties and set pieces, so I'm really tempted by Bruno myself. As mentioned, no Haaland in this draft. Instead, we can see Joao Pedro partnering Isaac up front. Joao Pedro could be really good value at 5.5, taking penalties for Brighton. Gross has left the side as well, so maybe Joao Pedro will be involved in some free kicks as well. So a 5.5 starting number 9 on penalties and other set pieces. He might be really good value. He has been a bit injured during preseason and he did not travel with the Brighton squad to Japan. So monitor his injury situation to be sure that he will start in game week 1. The no Haaland team also allows for a good bench, rotating 4.5 goalkeepers, Armstrong 5.5 on the bench, and Konsa as well, and Barco is rumored to be a 4.0 playing defender for Brighton. I'm not really sure after the recent comments about Baleba also playing left back, so that's another one to monitor, so he will not drop in value if he's on the bench in the first couple of game weeks. To summarize, this is also a really good FPL team. Can't really fault this one either, but if I have to say something, then it would be that if you are going for a draft without Haaland, I really do believe that you should include other City assets. So if you're going without Haaland, at least include Guardiola in your squad. So maybe downgrading Armstrong on your bench and upgrading Porro could be an option. That's some food for thought, but ultimately, of course, it's your decision. The third team is FPL Colonel. He has gone for Raya in goal and a 4.0 goalkeeper on the bench. In defense, we've seen him a lot. It's Konsa for a reason, Burn and Murillo. I do believe that Burn maybe is not the best option from Newcastle right now. He is 4.5, so if he plays, he's good value, but he has been rumored to have more rotation in that Newcastle defense, so pay attention to that. Murillo, I do believe that he is a really interesting option. Nottingham Forest, they have good fixtures, and I do believe that Murillo is a solid differential pick. In midfield, Salah and Gordon, and we see another differential in Elliott, so double up on Liverpool, and Bruno Fernandes from Man United. Up top, Haaland, Isaac. You also have the inclusion of a player that did really well at the end of last season, Muniz from Fulham. On the bench, we have a couple of decent options as well. Robinson from Fulham, he is playing against Man United, so I do believe that it's wise to bench him in game week 1 and play Murillo, Burn and Konsa over Robinson. But ultimately, Barco and Bergwall is also decent options. I've talked about Barco. I'm not really sure that he is the best 4.0 defender, but Bergwall could really well be one of the most interesting 4.5 midfielders. The caveat is, of course, that he might not play at all, and he might get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 1 pointers. So Bergwall is more of a 4.5 punt, but at that price, I do believe it's worth to take punt. To summarize this draft, I actually like the Raya pick. I do believe that 4.5 goalkeepers are maybe the best value, but if you want to cover Arsenal's defense, Raya is a decent option this season. Their nailed defenders are 6 or more, so going for Raya at 5.5 is a good option. Konsa, I talked about him, he's solid. Burn, I'm not really sure that he is the best pick from Newcastle. The same goes for Elliott in midfield. He is exciting to watch and he has scored some screamers, but I'm not sure that he is a viable FPL option at the start of the season. When it comes to Liverpool players and Liverpool midfielders, attackers such as Muniz, Jota, Diaz, Szoboszlai and Elliott, I do believe that they are a wait and see, and that we can pick them up if some of them gets injured. Next team out is FPL Plank or Giza FPL over at X. In goal, Jose Sa. In defense, Porro, Trent and Leif Davis. Midfield consisting of Pulver, Salah, Kamada, Rogers and Ahmad. Couple of differentials, and up top the same strikers as we've seen so many times before, Haaland and Isaac. On the bench, it's as cheap as it can be: Bentley, Barco, Faas and Stewart. And this is what often happens when you try to squeeze the best players into the same team. We can see in this team, we can check that we have Mo Salah, Haaland and Palmer. Of course, all of them are really good fantasy options. They are nailed on for their teams and they are taking penalties. So, of course, it's tempting to go with Palmer, Salah and Haaland, but in this case, I do believe that the rest of the team suffers a little bit too much. This is, of course, only my opinion, and if the likes of Kamada, Rogers, Namad really fires, then you're just laughing all the way. I do believe that the draft is decent and you managed to put in some of the best FPL players, and you also, I mentioned Salah, Haaland and Pulver, but you also have the most expensive defender in there in Trent Arnold. So overall, this team is decent and will probably do okay, and you have no problem with captaincy. But in my opinion, I do believe that this team is a little bit unbalanced. You spent too much money on the most expensive players, which has left too little for the rest of the team. But of course, it's just my opinion. Next team out is FPL Louie. He has gone for Flecken and Valdimarsson. I do like that combination, having the starting goalkeeper and also his deputy. This will always ensure that you have a playing goalkeeper. The negative is, of course, if you want other assets from Brentford, if Ivan Toney or Mboemo, Visa, if they really become good options, you will either have to wildcard or spend a transfer on changing Valdimarsson. But right now, I do believe that Flecken Valdimarsson is a decent combination. In defense, Konsa, Guardiol and Mikolenko, solid options. In midfield, we have Salah, Gordon, Esse and Johnson. Johnson is a really interesting pick and a big differential. I do believe that his ownership is around 1.5 or something, maybe it's above 2. Either way, he is a really big differential and he will probably start the season as well. Solanke is rumored to join Spurs and if he does, he will probably push Son out wide, which will maybe limit Johnson's game time a little bit. If Solanke joins Spurs, I will wait on the likes of Kulusevski and Johnson. So ultimately pay attention to the transfer window and swap Johnson out if Solanke joins. Up top, Haaland and Isaac, and once again Muniz from Fulham. Decent options. On the bench, as mentioned, Valdemarsson. Oscar Bob is included. He has done really well for Man City in pre-season. I can't really see him playing regularly, but of course he can get points from the bench as well. So having a player from Man City priced at 5.0 is actually worth a punt. Robinson as well, 4.5 defender, and Johnson, another decent 4.0 defender. He joined from West Ham to Ipswich this summer, and he will probably play most games. So overall, this is a decent team as well. As with a couple of the other drafts that I received, this team has no Arsenal in it, but it has Salah, it has Haaland, it has bench cover, and a couple of punts. So I do like this team. Maybe if I was to make one change, then since you already have Haaland, maybe Saliba is a better option than Guardiola at the start of the season. Next team, Ranjit Shetty with double Arsenal in defense. Raya is the goalkeeper and Saliba in defense together with Guehi and Mykolenko. In midfield, Ødegaard, Palmer, Esse and Bruno Fernandes, solid FPL picks, and up top Solanke, Isaac and Watkins. I just mentioned that Solanke will probably leave Bournemouth and join Spurs, so pay attention to that. On the bench, Turner. I don't like Turner, his ownership is so high and I can't see him starting. I do believe that Sells will play the first couple of games, and his ownership, as mentioned, is so high, and when he don't play he will probably drop in value down to 3.9. so if you want Raya, it's fine to go with a 4.0 keeper, but select a player with low ownership. This team has no Haaland or no Salah, which allows for a little bit more money on the bench. So Elliott 5.5, Castani 4.5 and Konsa 4.5 as well, so a solid bench. Overall, I do believe that this team is fine. It has a lot of good FPL options. Of course, it will be a problem if Haaland and Salah does really well in the opening games, but hopefully your other players will perform so your rank don't suffer that much if the likes of Haaland and Salah starts firing. A couple of comments when it comes to Guehi. I like Andersen much better. He has more attacking threat. And when it comes to Solanke, I would advise you to maybe have a plan B because he looks very likely to join Spurs. So to summarize, sell Turner, get another 4.0 in my opinion, and the same goes for Guehi. If you really want coverage from the Crystal Palace defense, go for Andersen. So this is the last draft. It's Sing LFC, or the double pivots on X. Why it's in another format is only because when I made the graphics, I had no graphics for the 4-4-2, only 3-4-3 and 3-5-2. So it would have taken me too much time to make a new graphic with a 4-4-2. So in goal, Henderson and Fabianski. In defense, Peroporo, Byrne, Guardiola and Harvard-Bellis. In midfield, Esse, Salah, Smith-Rowe and Saka, and up top Isaac and Haaland. So some of these picks are picks that are familiar for us now, but a couple of interesting punts as well. Harvard-Bellis, he is probably a starting 4.0 defender. I'm not really sure if he's good enough to be in a starting 11, but he's at least good enough to have on the bench. Smith-Rowe just signed for Fulham from Arsenal, a really good player and has done well for Arsenal earlier, but I actually like Andreas Pereira better. Talked about this in the review of all teams, and the reasoning for going with Andreas is of course because of the set pieces. But if you do believe that Smith-Rowe will do well, of course you should pick him, and as mentioned, he is a really good player. So to summarize, this team is really good as well. You have a lot of penalty takers. Haaland, Isaac will probably take penalties for Newcastle when Wilson is unfit. Saka and Salah and Eze as well. So a lot of potential points in your front six. What I don't really like is that Harvard Bellis is in the starting 11 and that the rest of the bench consists of fodders. So maybe this team needs one downgrade to allow the upgrade of one of your fodders. So Harvard Bellis in the starting 11, it might work out, but I can't really see a newly promoted team keep that many clean sheets in the first half of the season. That's it. Let me know in the comments, do you agree or disagree with my assessment? It's completely fine if you disagree. Like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more FPL content during the season. Thanks for watching.